Look, to get straight to the point, I think Fuzzy Felons is a great project and I actually think it's underrated. Now, in this video, I'm going to break down the reasons why I think it's interesting and why I think you should consider actually looking into the project. The reason that I say that it's underrated is they've got 7,000 followers on Twitter, but the animations on this project are absolutely insane. This isn't a Fiverr artist, and I'll touch on the artist shortly. This is a high quality project. The renders, the animations are absolutely insane. Now, with the fact, like, look at the sort of the flame hair on this. It's just straight nuts. Hey, real quick, if you actually scroll down, hit up that subscribe button. Okay, let's kick on. Now, look, the reason that the animations are really good and that I like Fuzzy Felons is that this is the artist. The artist is Colorblind, so Peter. Now, Peter, this is his personal account. He's been on Twitter since sort of 2011. So when it comes down to Peter and what he actually does, he is actually a VFX artist. That's just what he does. So on his website, we've actually got kind of a little bit of information about him, and we can see some of his past work. So since the start of his film career at George Lucas's famed Skywalker Ranch, Peter has had a front row seat to crafting Hollywood blockbusters by the modern masters of cinema. Now, this sounds like the typical kind of artist or sort of founder kind of pumping themselves up. But if you actually head over onto IMDB and we actually check out his profile, this isn't empty. This is full. This is stacked. He's had some director credits, but these are sort of shorter films, things that he's put together because he started to focus on directing. But what's really interesting and really good, visual effects, 23 credits. Now, when we actually head down here, we can see Shrek 2, Star Wars Episode 3, Madagascar, Ice Age 2, Harry Potter. We're starting to see some sort of Chronicles of Narnia. We can see some absolutely crazy credits when it comes down to these projects. So this isn't a guy that's saying, hey, yeah, I've worked with Adidas, I've worked with Nike, here's what I've done. This guy has actually done it and he's actually got credits, which is absolutely crazy. Now, to back this up even further, what you can actually do is you can actually head over to his Vimeo, and this is like another thing that shows he's an artist because all artists usually put stuff on Vimeo. You can actually check out his VFX Reel. Now, his VFX Reel is absolutely nuts. This just shows you the type of work that he's put together and the types of quality sort of projects that he's been a part of. Now, look, I know people can say, hey, look, he can rip stuff off trailers, kind of put it together to kind of front an image. But if you actually head down, you can see some of his other effects and other works, like almost like a show reel. So when someone does some VFX work, what they'll also do is they'll put together a whole bunch of different test images and test things so people can see what they can do. So this is some 3D work that he's done here. Absolutely insane. The quality is there. So this kind of comes back to what they're actually doing when it comes down to the project. The fact that we've got Peter, artist that has credits, knows what he's doing, creating top quality work. So this is why I'm kind of excited about the project, and this is why I think it's underrated, because we regularly see projects that kind of have an anonymous artist just kind of get some stuff off Fiverr, do a walking promo or do something like that, and then it pumps up, gets to sort of 100, 200,000 sort of followers on Twitter, and then people buy in. This is actually kind of a project that's put together by someone that can actually do it. So when we actually head over onto the Discord, we can have a bit of a peek around. On Discord, they've got sort of 7, almost the same amount. So everyone that's on Twitter is essentially on their Discord, which is great. I really like this. Now, what's cool is they're doing a supply of 3,333, mint price 0.01. Now, I think this is stupid good. A supply of 3K, on point. I think that's great. And with the mint price of 0.1, I think that's also fair and reasonable, because we've seen things before. I don't want to name projects, but we've seen 0.45 mints, 0.25 mints. The quality of this work is absolutely insane, and the fact that it's a 0.1 mint is crazy. Now, I was able to actually reach out and speak to Peter. So one of my boys, Bright Mind, actually put me in touch with Bounty. Now, Bounty is the mod, but he's also transitioned into strategy, comms, outreach, that kind of thing, and he's actually based in Sydney. So jumped on a call with Bounty, had a talk to him, got a vibe for the project, then go, hey, can you hook me up with a chat with Peter? Now, here's where like all these kind of things come together. Jumped on a chat with Peter, and it was a video call. And I like to do these more and more because when you do a voice call, someone can kind of be hiding in the shadows if they want to. It's not saying you need to do a video call, but the fact that the artist wanted to jump on, do a video call, and we spoke for about half an hour just sort of face to face, which is really cool, really good. And it's these little things that come together that make me see the strength and the potential in the project. And what Peter was saying is that the 3K sort of supply, it's not like they could have done a 4 or 5K supply. The 3K supply was because he wanted to actually make sure that he could get a good variation in the Felons. He could make sure that he got a good variation in the actual kind of animations and the characters themselves, because he didn't want to kind of just water down the collection. He actually wanted to make them quite good. Now, this is where we kind of get over onto what the actual Felons are, and a little bit of an idea of where the idea and mentality came from. And this is why you can tell he's a VFX artist, and this is where he kind of spends his life in. He wanted to do something that didn't have too many facial expressions. Now, what he was saying is that with the way that the Felons actually look, the mouths, they just open. So the idea is that when you're doing VFX, if you actually got a really highly detailed face, you need to animate the eyes, you got to animate all these small little facial expressions. With this, what happens is when the Felons are actually talking or moving, the mouth is just really simple because it's basically just sort of two pieces open and closed, which means you can add more crazy effects onto kind of all the assets around it. Now, this shows me that he's thinking about this long term, because he actually, when I get to the roadmap, he's actually executing on the roadmap in a sense that he's thought about it, and he's thought about how to actually streamline the process to actually execute what he wants to do without getting bogged down later. And this is just someone that's smart, that's thought about the entire process start to finish. So when it comes down to the roadmap, what he's actually doing is he wants to do an animated series. Now, if you've been in the space before, you've heard someone say this, and I actually kind of said it to him that when I hear the words animated series, I actually kind of like, it doesn't hit with me anymore, because everyone's promises that they're going to create some IP, that they're going to create a series, they're going to kind of do something. But what he said is, he said that when he looks at what's going to be happening with the animated series and the roadmap, for him, this is the easy part. He's done this before. He's directed short films, directed music videos. He's worked in big feature films. He knows how to actually create these. He knows what to do. So that's the easy part. The hard part and the scary part for him is all the NFT-based stuff, because he understands the space, but he feels at home creating these kind of pieces of content. So the idea with Fuzzy Felons is he wants to have a sort of once every 2 weeks put out a short piece. And the idea is he wants to use each of the Felons that are in the collection as the characters in it. And he essentially wants to have start with two comedians kind of doing sort of short dialogue pieces. What he will then do is the people that are then essentially cast as the Felon will then get the tokens, fuzz tokens, as a reward. But the idea is that people are getting fuzz tokens, which then means they can then, essentially because they're Felons, they could possibly bribe their way to then get onto the set and actually kind of become the star of the show. And the idea is like each week, or sort of every 2 weeks, when the content is made, they'll use two different set of Felons. But then he also wants to use that and collaborate with people that he knows that are comedians, stand-up guys, things like that, to actually then do the voiceover work for it. So when I heard this, I was like, okay, it seems like he's actually thought about how he wants to execute it. He hasn't gone, we're going to create an animated series. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He knows that he essentially wants to get some good comedians, guys that can almost kind of improv, that kind of thing, then use his Felons to do a very simple sketch-based kind of piece. Now, I hope I'm not butchering this when it comes down to his sort of idea, but this is what I've taken away from it. And where I kind of started to actually get sucked into his world and start kind of believing where he wants to kind of take it is the fact that when he was talking about it, he wasn't talking about it like it was in like it was a pipe dream. He was talking about it like he's just ready to go, ready to execute. And the idea of Fuzzy Felons is he wants to turn this into what will be what could end up being a Netflix show, Amazon Prime sort of feature film, that kind of thing. He wants to turn it into that, which then came around to the fact that because he's been in the sort of film industry before, he's had those meetings before. He's sat down with the executives. He's been sort of like so close to having things greenlit. So he's been through the system. And where the drive for Fuzzy Felons comes from, and this is what I kind of asked him, I was like, has this come from a place of not being able to execute? And the idea is that he's had these concepts, these ideas before, but there's just been a board of men in suits essentially going, that doesn't fit into what our shooting schedule would be or what our kind of content schedule would be. That won't hit that segment market. Sorry, not going to greenlight it. So he wanted to actually create something that from deep down, he knows that will hit, that will kind of have a market for, and he just wants to get it done. Now, one thing that I also want to kind of point out is the fact that they also did an auction, so a charity auction, but what they ended up doing, so you can actually see he donated $25,000. He created this piece, then sold these pieces as charity, kind of like we've seen with projects like HAPE or Invisible Friends, where they kind of do a charity auction. So he's done that and used that as a way to kind of generate some awareness for the project, but also do something good. And I think this is a really good way when it comes down to a project, because when a project takes mint money and donates to charity, that can actually not work well and work towards the project, because people will be like, why are you taking the mint money used for the roadmap to then put that into just giving away to charity? But the idea, he's done something as a companion piece that isn't tied directly to the actual project itself that can contribute to charity, I think is a really cool twist on it. And I think it works. And I think if projects ever really do want to kind of donate to charity, this is a really good way to kind of do it, because it's not kind of trying to sell out the project to then do it. It's actually done in a different way. So when it comes down to Fuzzy Felons, who is this project for? I think this project is for someone, also this is Peter himself, he's got his face on camera, he's doing a lot of talking to the community. I think this project is for someone that can see the longer term implications. I don't necessarily think this is a quick get in, get out within a week for a quick flip, because I think it will take a few months for this to kind of get traction, them to show that they're executing, build this up, and it'll work quite well. Peter's got the connections to actually kind of get this moving, get this across the line, and the fact that he kind of has the skills to get it done in the hard skills sense when it comes down to the actual animation, but also the soft skills with the networking and the network that he has when it comes down to the film and TV industry. So I think this is a medium to long-term play for someone. I think if you're in this for the short term, don't move in on this project. I also think it is somewhat still early and you're able to get in because it's still got 7,000 followers. There's about 14 days, so 2 weeks until this project launches, and that is an eternity in NFT land. I think once we get down to a week out, this will kind of get to a 15, 20, 25, and then we'll start to see a little bit of hype around the project. Now, one other thing that I think is crazy, if you actually check out sort of Peter's, you see who's following Peter, and you can see Digi, the sort of founder of HAPE. So Peter actually has an established career in the industry. He is followed by some people in the NFT space that have some clout. He's also got an NFT that fits in with what he does and the skills that he has. And the roadmap isn't trying to become the next metaverse hats of something. He's actually trying to execute on what he actually knows and what he actually loves and what he actually has the drive for. Because if he's going to be working day in, day out, he wants to do it on something that he knows that he can actually execute on. So that is my kind of brain dump when it comes down to Fuzzy Felons, who's behind it, how it all connects up together. If you found value in this video, please consider hitting up that subscribe button. And while you're down there, also hit up the like button. As always, it's been a pleasure having you with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.